Welcome to Behind the Smile with Ash Butterss, a podcast designed to reveal the truth behind the masks we wear. Together, we look to demystify the human mind and its behaviours in relation to mental health, trauma and addiction. My name's Ash and I'll be your host as we uncover the real stories of people's pain and the steps they've taken to live a life of freedom in recovery. From sobriety to spirituality, join me each week as we uncover the reasons why people seek recovery and how their lives have changed by living one day at a time. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Behind the Smile. Today's guest is Ali Burke. Ali is a 53-year-old single mum of one who lives in Karratha, Western Australia. After decades of alcohol ruling her life, Ali made the decision to quit drinking on the 20th of June 2021. Since then, she's discovered a whole new lease on life and is passionate about sharing her story in the hope it will help others. Dialing in from WA, I'd love to welcome Ali onto the show. Ali, welcome to Behind the Smile. How are you today?
Hi, Ash. I'm really well, thank you.
That's excellent. Now, you've just done a big move up to Karratha. How did the drive go?
Oh, my gosh. It was intense. 5 animals. So three dogs and 2 cats.
Oh, my goodness.
One of the dogs is 16 years old, so it's quite a large breed and just, it was pretty hectic. And I just bought a new car as well, so I was sort of like lots of praying that A, the car didn't break down, and B, the cats didn't escape. And because it was 2 days on the road.
2 days of driving. Where were you driving from exactly?
So I was living in Perth. And so, I mean, look, you can do it in one day, but it's 1,700 kilometres. So, there was just no way I could physically do that. And the animals, obviously, they need to get out and stretch their legs.
Of course.
So we arrived pretty weary but happy, and everyone survived. And the car is just amazing. I'm so happy I bought it, and yes.
Well done. What inspired the move to Karratha?
Yeah, I came up here December last year, just to work as a casual. I'm a ranger for the local government. So, a friend of mine was up here already and they needed like a casual. So I said, oh, well, I'll come. And, pretty quickly, even though it was like 47 degrees, it was just like, walking into a furnace. It was like, pretty quickly I just had this like, wow, it's kind of like the Wild West. I guess I'm a total tomboy. So it just suited my, just this open expanse, and it's just very beautiful here. So, took it like a duck to water. And then just over the course of being up here, I set up my own business as a contractor, which I was pretty proud of. And then eventually they just kept extending my contract, and I just thought there's obviously a reason why the universe has put me here. So then the job as a senior ranger was made available, and I initially just thought, oh, yeah, no, not really, just wasn't in my mindset. And then, I don't know, one day I was talking to the boss and I said, I really like it here. And then I thought, well, I'll apply for the job. And I got it.
It's amazing how doors just start to open in sobriety, don't they? It's almost like, I always think of when I was in my active addiction, I was so afraid of giving up alcohol because I thought I'd lose so much. And I know you talk about this as you've got this beautiful saying around it's actually more about what you gain in sobriety, because you gain this whole new big life and all of these different opportunities, right?
Yeah, the catchphrase is, I gave up drinking, or I gave up smoking, or I gave up. And it's like, no, split that around and say, I didn't give up, I've gained.
Oh, it's so true, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that just sort of one of my quotes that came out of nowhere, and it was kind of like, yeah, I didn't give up anything. Giving up a life of loneliness and hangovers and bullshit relationships to now, living this life that I just never thought would be possible.
It's a total shift in mindset, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
So, Ali, we've already started to get to know a little bit about you, but I'd love to ask you a few more questions just to let our audience know who you are. So, can you start with sharing where did you grow up? What does an average day look like for you? And what do you do for fun?
So I was brought up in Perth, WA. I am the youngest of 7.
Wow.
And I have a twin brother, and there's also another set of twins. So Mum had 7 kids under 10 with 2 sets of twins.
That's a busy household.
Yes, it was pretty hectic.
I can imagine.
Yeah, so I did suffer, childhood asthma, and I guess, yeah, just that sort of feeds into a bit of going to hospital a lot, feeling abandoned because, you just wanted your mum, but she had, 6 other siblings to look after. So, yeah, I was brought up in Perth and now moving to Karratha. And then what I do for fun is, I got up this morning and went for a beautiful walk up the hill. I'm pretty active anyway, so, stand-up board, four-wheel driving, or anything outdoors is pretty much my fun. I'm slowly getting out and about, so I'm going to a Magic Mike, I don't know, thing tomorrow night.
Oh, my God, I love it. Good on you.
It's like, okay, so I'm learning how to, socialise sober and dance sober. But, yeah, I love music. I've just, I was playing the drums, learning the drums, and I stopped that because that sort of was a bit triggering. So I've bought a brand new set of electric drums, and I'm today going to set them up and get back into that because, yeah, that's kind of...
Yeah, I'd love to know more about that, Ali. What were you finding triggering about playing the drums? What did it bring up for you?
Well, whenever I played, I was piston stoned. So in my shed, and you also think that you're freaking amazing. And oh yeah, man, I'm nailing it. And really, you probably play like shit, but in your mind, when you're high and you're drunk, you just think you're amazing. So then when I took alcohol out of my life, that even just going into the shed, so where I used to live, I had a really, really big shed, and that's where I feed the dogs. So it was kind of like this, that was my pattern. I'd come home from work, probably have a cone, pour a drink, feed the dogs, and then be like, look at the drums, have a few more drinks, and then start playing. So that was, even just a simple thing as feeding the dogs was going into the shed, not drinking. So then I just thought, I tried to play sober, and it was just that sense that, not that I wanted to drink, but it was just that memory that I, was always stoned or drunk. So
Yeah.
I just put it aside and focused on myself. So now I thought, well, yeah, it's all new beginnings, new drum set, new way of thinking.
New environment, yeah.
Yeah, and really try and, even when I started playing, I was in a pretty, in my marriage, I bought the kit trying to sort of, it was an escapism as well, I guess. So when
because you were unhappy in your marriage?
Yeah, totally miserable. So you think bash, and it was something like a child. I just loved the drums. As kids, I was brought up with punk music and things like that. And I remember like sitting at the table doing playing the air drums, but never had the confidence. It just always comes back to just confidence. And then sort of one day I thought, I'll play the drums. I met a guy that was a drum teacher, but then sort of with him, I didn't really gel with him, and I felt like I was at school, and this perfection in me was trying to learn the music, and had a stressful job, stressful life, and it just sort of wasn't gelling with me. And I guess it would gel when I was drinking, because then I could relax a bit and just go for it, sort of thing. But
well, I don't know about you, but for me, whenever I was drinking, my inner critic, that was the only time that went away, that really negative voice went away. And so, like my confidence, my self-esteem, everything was higher, and I was more prepared to try things for the first time and make a fool out of myself, because you don't have that constant negative voice spiraling.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. So that was, a combination of not a great teacher and then not a great, dynamic to also just the headspace. I just didn't have the headspace to try and learn. So,
Yeah, it makes sense. I love what you've just shared there, that because you've just recently celebrated 2 years of sobriety, haven't you? That's amazing. Congratulations. Fantastic. And to share that sometimes there are old environments, whether that's people, places, or things that we did in our active addiction, that we do need to take space from for a period of time in early sobriety because of the triggers that they can bring up. But then to know that when you keep putting in the work and building up a support system for yourself, a foundation in sobriety, there are things that eventually you can go back to. It's not like you have to give up these things forever. It's just about gaining the strength in sobriety, potentially changing the environment. Like, I love that, you're now in Karratha, you've got an electric drum kit, so you can still go back to your passion.
Yeah. And try it in a different, it's like everything's new, and it's like a reset. And, to set them up and then actually use it for good versus evil, come home and, think, all right, I'm going to just, instead of sitting like early sobriety, we're all we kind of I went into hermit mode and things like that, because it is tough, because you basically everybody is massive drinkers, because that's why we're friends with people like that, because
birds of a feather flock together, hey?
Yeah. It's like, Friday night, let's get on the terps. To sort of on a Friday night now, maybe I could think, I'll come home and play the drums, or just I don't know, just have that different release in having a stressful day. I'd never have thought that I'd go for a walk after 5, because that would be I would have been 3 drinks in by then.
Unless you're walking to the bottle shop.
I'll do it tomorrow, and then tomorrow you're hungover and you're tired and you're just like, I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. You're describing the exact same pattern that I was in there for sure.
The leap that we don't live by anymore,
that's it.
Unreal.
It's freeing. Ali, we kick off each episode talking about a photo. Now, this photo that I've asked you to bring is a photo from a time in your life where you were hiding behind a smile. So you were presenting one version of yourself out there to the world, but the reality was the insides looked very different. Can you please describe for our listeners, what am I looking at in this photo, and what was going on for you at that time in your life?
Yeah, so the photo was from, I'm pretty sure it's either 2011, 2012, so a good 10 years ago. I was hungover as, most days, but pretty bloody hungover. I was bloated. I was just angry and resentful that I was there. So I was at my sister's cosplay event in Perth in the city, and I had my daughter, who would have been about 7, and my little nephew, who would have been about 8. So they were like uber excited. I mean, seeing their auntie, she's quite famous, on stage, and they ended up going on stage. But, so it was all really like, I remember sort of the night before probably, drinking in excitement, but also a bit anxious because, we're going into the city and, and there's just that reward, like you think, oh, yeah, I'll just have a couple. And then, of course, I was hungover as shit. And I remember driving there thinking, I was, hoping that I wasn't going to get pulled over. And, I had 2 kids in the car and, I was literally shaking because I used to drink quite a lot. And
what's quite a lot?
I could drink a litre of vodka.
Wow. So that was like a standard.
That was totally doable.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that night I might have only had like half a litre, but on top of cigarettes and pot, marijuana, then I probably would have gone to bed feeling pretty like I gave it a nudge. So I wake up in the morning and I used to like get the twitches because like you're just full of ethanol. And, even just getting a park, I was like, fucking hell, I'm just losing my shit internally, trying to put on a brave face and then get in there. And it's just like, I just sort of then knew it was going to be a whole day instead of just an hour or 2. So, that photo was, as I said, my sister's had a photo booth. So, it was a family photo and it actually came up on my feed only a couple of months ago, and I literally screenshot it, zoomed it, and I just went, oh my God, that's 10 years ago, so I would have been like 43, 42, and I actually look 53 there than I do now, and I just look at my eyes, they were black, as I said, I was overweight, I was puffy, I was pissed off, I was hungover, and the last thing I wanted to do was be there, and that was my photo.
And what was the inner dialogue at that time?
Oh, look, it was just my way of coping with anything in life. My go-to was alcohol. I mean, I was married to a very heavy drinker, but obviously I attracted that. At the time, there was red flags and like literally my intuition was screaming, and it's just like, no. I mean, I was 32 when I met him, and I had that sense of like, TikTok time's running out. Come on, Ali. Not that my parents would say that, but the inner thing was just like, oh yeah, he'll do. And he was 9 years nearly younger than me.
Wow, young.
Yeah, so a bit of a cougar. A toy boy, which, he had accidents. I mean, he was like, I'm wheeling around in a wheelchair. I won't go down that path again. I'll find someone my own age. But, just lots of red flags, but just thought that's all I deserve. That's all no, she'll be right. I can change him. But also it was when you have, when you drink, it's great to have a partner that's a drinker as well. I mean, that's how you bond and
absolutely.
Yeah, so that photo, I guess that time in my life was just, I mean, I think I would have been married. I got married in 2004. So it just wasn't great. So I was just drinking to numb out my resentment and actually I used to look at him and his drinking and just always put it onto the partner because I was always a happy drunk. Like, no, I'm fine. It's you. You're the problem. You're the passive-aggressive arsehole when you drink, And I always asked him to give up, and I never supported him, because he would always lose his shit, and then we wouldn't talk, or he'd give up for 3 weeks. And I actually sort of spoke to him and said, I'm sorry that I never supported his, literally when he gave up, because he had to, because he was told to by me. But then I would literally come home from work, crack a drink and be like, well, fuck you. I don't have a problem.
Wow.
I know.
I'm smiling and nodding. Yeah, because I just relate so much. My ex-husband smoked a lot of marijuana, and so I would always say to him, you need to give up. You need to give up. This is the problem in our relationship. And he would do the exact same thing back to me. You need to stop drinking. You need to stop drinking. And of course, we know when you're pointing the finger, there's three pointing back at you. But we're, as alcoholics, as addicts, we're so good at blaming, aren't we?
Yeah. Yeah. Because really, I honestly believed that I didn't have a problem.
Yeah.
Totally. Because as I said, I was functioning. I was going to work. I was cooking dinner. I was always looking after the daughter. And as I said, my alcohol was, I was like consistently happy. There was no, so I sort of spoke to my daughter because, she still does now, but she used to get anxious when her dad, even after one beer, he would change. Whereas for me, it was more, she didn't have that sense of anxiety or fear that, oh God, mum's having a vodka. So therefore I was kind of like, oh, well, see, you're fine. But my own inner dialogue was saying, you're useless, you fucking can't, you're drinking again, that victim mentality, it's all everybody else's fault, poor me, why me? And then, so that's probably that inner critic at that photo was just like,
running rampant. Yeah.
We're most hard on ourselves than anybody would ever know. Yet it still doesn't take, I couldn't give up for my daughter. I couldn't give up for anything other than just sick of my own shit, really.
Yeah, and it's so insidious, isn't it? Particularly when we are quote unquote high functioning, we're keeping a household together, we're showing up to work, we're maintaining our relationships, because when we don't have the outward crashing and bashing, we convince ourselves everything's okay. But what I often say to people who I'm talking to who are trying to get their head around their relationship with alcohol is I just make it very simple. And the question is, when you start, can you stop?
Yeah, exactly. And if you're questioning it as well, like if you're thinking, oh, I've got to drive tonight. I mean, that used to be like, oh, shit. It was very rare that I would offer to be the freaking
never
driver. I was just like, no, I'm out, we'll catch a taxi. And
no way.
Well, there's a red flag because I'm thinking, no, that's going to stuff up my drinking. Like, there's no way. Or I deserve it because, why can't the ex, the partner, why don't you, this big argument, like, you drive, no, you drive, no, you drive. And it's just like, oh, for Christ's sakes. Like, so if you're already questioning that, you can't, if you're already, I used to think there was such a big thing about going out to a party or we always just have our life revolving around alcohol. And I'm sure with that photo, I remember that, I was thinking the night before, like, oh, I've got a day off tomorrow. All I'm doing is going to the city. So I'll get half cut the night before because, then maybe the next night I wouldn't be able to drink. And then the next night it would be a Sunday and you'd probably like, oh, I've got to go to work Monday. And it's just all this freaking, our whole life, well, my life was revolving around the calendar of should I drink tonight, shouldn't I? What have I got on tomorrow? And it's just like, it's a full-time job.
Yeah, it's all consuming. And I remember I would basically write off a Sunday. Like if I knew that I had a friend's birthday dinner or any sort of occasion, and it didn't have to be much, let me tell you, I'd make an occasion out of anything. But I wouldn't only give up that evening to drink, but then the whole next day I would absolutely not commit to anything.
Yep. Totally. What a waste of time.
Just such a loss of life, really. Like if you
is.
were to count up the hours that we've
Yes.
spent just
Yeah.
in the fetal position, in bed,
Yes.
tired, hungover. Oh, it's just
Yeah.
such a waste, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, we give it so much credit. You know, like you just think, oh well, and you know, like if you did have a good night the night before, you'd get the creds for, you know, I was always the last one up. Without a shadow of a doubt, I was the instigator. I was always the last one up. And then the next day, you know, some days I'd be like, oh well, let's keep going.
Yeah.
So you'd have a couple of hours sleep and be like, oh, let's have a shampoos, and I'd ring the same crew, and some of them would be like, yeah, why not? Because it's a Sunday, and it's, you know, and that
Sunday session.
Sunday session, and then by that sort of afternoon, I'd be right. Okay, I've had enough, and then pass out till the Monday morning, get up to work, and then you go to work, and it'd be like, and you'd be feeling like pretty
rubbish.
Rough. Yeah, and it'd be like, how was your weekend? And you just think of that one, oh, yeah, it was really good.
It was awesome.
It was awesome, yeah. And you're like, fucking hell, I'm like, yeah, shaking, wanting a burger, like just not wanting to be at work Mondays, you know, as we all know.
And I think another thing that used to trip me up, you know, just as we talk about it, I'm getting taken back there really vividly, is often I would bounce back. Like for a really long time, up until about the last 2 years of my drinking, I used to be able to like be really high functioning on hangovers as well. And I would use that as a way to, again, rationalize and justify the night before. But I now see only in hindsight that even if I was showing up the next day where I needed to be, I was a shell of a human, and I wasn't engaging authentically and connecting with people in a deep way that I'm now able to, you know, pretty much all the time.
I mean, I work in local government. We get drug tested and alcohol tested. I mean, I don't know how. I mean, there was only a couple of times that we did, but I mean, most of them are ex-police that were my bosses or whatever. And like, so I'd go home sort of like, you know, maybe on a Thursday or Friday, and I'd be like, oh yeah, you know, I'm going to go home and have a vodka, totally knowing that I'm going to go home and smoke some cones. You know, vodka, a catchphrase too. And
what's the socially acceptable, right?
Totally, yeah. I mean, look, you don't get too many people in A&E that are stoned, you know, causing fights and whatever. But yeah, it was still like that lie that I told my workers and my bosses and stuff. And just even that, like I couldn't lie in bed straight. Like just the amount of lying that we do as addicts is incredible. I should write a book of excuses, a book of lies, because like, and that's just, as you say, it's like that authenticity of you're just not hearing it because you're just thinking, shut up, I've got a banging headache, or I just can't wait to get home and just have a hair of the dog.
Yeah, it's just that inability to be present.
Yeah.
And the lying, oh my gosh, the lying. I got so good at lying that I was lying to myself and I didn't even know it. I think that's what was the scariest part for me. And I see it in so many people who are really struggling to get a grips with what's really going on. And that's why I think it takes people years and years and years to get to the decision, if you know, God willing, they do, to look at this stuff. And again, like I just wrote about this the other day, posted something on Instagram around living a program of rigorous honesty, which is what I do in my day-to-day life now. Because if I start to tell a white lie or even lie by omission, if I start lying, then eventually I'm going to start lying to myself, and then eventually a drink's going to seem like a good idea because I'm lying to myself, right? I'm starting to believe my own lies. That's a lie. I know that to be true. Like there's no way a drink is a good idea, but eventually I might believe it to be true. Yeah. So it's just so important to stay the course in honesty when we're choosing an alcohol-free life.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Now, Ali, you and I both know that alcoholism or alcohol use disorder however you identify, it's progressive. We don't wake up or we don't take our first drink and we're drinking a liter of vodka. That would certainly kill you.
Yeah.
Can you talk to me a little bit more about how did it all start and how did it evolve for you over the years to getting to the point that you got to?
Like a lot of people when, in the 80s, it was more, the party, and you could literally, we were free range kids. I mean, shit, I was buying mum and dad cigarettes at the local deli for $2. So alcohol was, I had zero self-esteem, zero, I was scared of my own shadow. I mean, chronic bedwetter right up until, the age of 7. I think I wet the bed on a school camp, just terrified in my own, I just didn't have that parenting that, soothed the inner child and things like that. So when I guess alcohol was for me that, look, I've got brothers and I was a tomboy and I did get on well with people at school, but I was really, really skinny and, you get teased for you have to run around in the shower to get wet, and they'd call me rake and, things like that. So it chips away at your self-esteem, what little self-esteem I had. So, yeah, when I think, because I've got an older brother, I'd try alcohol when he was on drinking and quickly realised, it makes me funnier. I was trying to crack onto his mates.
Yep.
The other day, oh, my God, running around the house, thank God they were nice guys and they knew me well, but just gives you that courage, right? It's Dutch courage. So, yeah, drinking, I did play volleyball at a pretty high level, and you got your your volleyball mate. So, we'd celebrate getting drunk after a game in a park or wherever. So then, but I guess I still see those friends now, and none of them are pissheads, and it never stayed with them. Whereas me, it just clicked because I did get that sense of, worthiness from alcohol. And so quickly, when you're at school, I was so scared of the nuns that, I didn't even smoke at school, but so I was kind of like a good girl. And then when I left school, it was and then I sort of moved out of home at 16.
Wow, that's so young.
Yeah, it was too young, but, it's the start of me running away from myself. Actually, Dad owned a tavern as well. And you'd think that would be, awesome. Look, I gave it a nudge. I tried to drink and I learned how to roll cigarettes there more so than drinking. But, certainly alcohol was present in my life. And then travelled sort of around with a girlfriend who was my age, but boy, she looked. So we were 16 and she looked like she was freaking 20. It's like blonde hair, big boobs.
Yeah.
So, and again, in those days, you could walk into a pub. G'day, love. What do you want? And we're like, a beer. And you would. They wouldn't even look twice. So I took to it again more than her. And, it just gave me that. It was also that sense of fitting in. So, so I just think I could play pool better. I could talk more, flirt or try and, dance more. Alcohol works until it doesn't, and it gives you a lot of false belief that you're awesome. But, so I kind of, just started from when I was a teenager and then started working in a male, as I said, tomboy, worked in landscaping, and I could drink the boys under the table. And I was like 40-something kilos, but I just had this tolerance. I could literally drink a carton of beer if I really wanted to.
That's just
And
amazing.
then I drive home.
Oh my gosh.
Like, I don't know. It was just this, like, I don't know, but I could,
Superhuman.
and I wasn't, and also I wasn't a guzzler, so I guess that's probably why I would I'd steadily drink. But yeah, I could, on a normal Thursday night after work, like with the toolbox meeting, half a carton, no problem at all, then drive home. And then, get on with my night. So yeah, then I went into mining, which again is just a perfect place for a pisshead.
Boys club, right?
Right, totally. I mean, again, I was getting validation from blokes. That was my, um, you know, that was my credit. Was, oh yeah, Ali can drink like the
Knock it
boys.
back.
Ali can,
Yeah.
play pool better than Tom down the road. Like I could drive a truck. Like I was a total tomboy,
And for somebody who's struggled with self-esteem their whole
yeah,
life, that's the
yeah,
ego boost you're
yeah.
craving, right?
Yep. And that's what alcohol, like the beer. Like Dad used to say to me, no, don't drink spirits because people can spike your drinks. And so literally, as I said, beer was I didn't drink anything else other than beer. And yeah, I did lose my license 3 times in that course of
Wow.
being a ladette. So
But it never stopped you?
no, no. Like
Do you remember what was going through your head at that time?
I
Each
just wanted
time
to
you
go.
got caught?
The last time, I must say, it did scare the crap out of me. I was in Kalgoorlie, which is a sort of a small town. So I did, and that was my 3rd offence. It seemed to happen every 4 years, and that was my 3rd offence. And I literally was, and it's always been a street from home. So it's like that ad on TV, like you just think you go the back streets. It doesn't work. But I mean, it was freaking 3:00 in the morning. I'd been drinking since midday.
Wow.
And I was going to the nightclub, and then the nightclub said, nah, sorry, it's too late. Like it must have been about 2:00. I'm like, come on, mate. I just want, one more drink. Like, seriously. So yeah, then I was driving back and saw the familiar red and blue lights, and I was like, and I could see my house. I could see my house, and I'm like, oh my! I had a stubby between my legs.
Far out. And what did they do?
Oh, they were like, hi, random breakfast. So I'm like, oh, that's great. Thanks. I gave the beer to my friend in the car, and they're like, oh, we're just, have you had anything to drink tonight? And I was just like, oh yeah, I had a few. Again, I was like, I wasn't slurring, like, I just don't know. But anyway, eventually they just, blew the breatho machine off its face. And then in the paddy wagon, and that's when I really started crying and thinking, oh, this is it. You're an idiot. What are you doing? I'm going to do it this time. I won't drink again. Please, universe, don't send me to jail. Please, God, I won't do it again. And then, they dropped me back. Yeah, I was high range. And then went to court, and for some reason they didn't give me, they pay, it was more of a big fine than actually I think it was only 10 months. But there lies the problem, because then I had to drive to work. So, the lie came in, and I sort of rang the geologist, and I was like, hey mate, my landlord won't let me keep the car at the house, so you'll have to drive me. And he took it hook, line and sinker, because I was really good at it. And he drove me, basically. I was like, oh, can we just pop into the shops? Like, Jesus. Yeah,
Just
sure.
got to pick up some supermarket things.
Like, you've never done it before, but no. Anyway, so I got out of that, and then literally from court straight to the pub.
Yeah.
Celebrating because I didn't lose it for,
After, rewind to back of the paddy wagon, making promises.
Yep, it's just like it never happened.
The
like
switch.
I got over it, I held my breath. The outcome was what I wanted. So what do? Reward, celebrate. I beat the system. But again, there's me. So I ended up leaving that industry because they also brought in drug and alcohol screening. And I just thought, well, I'd rather drink and smoke pot than to earn a heap of money. I mean, how crazy is that? Again, putting alcohol and pot above my my career.
Yeah, and once again, like just allowing it to rule your life.
Yes. But again, like honestly, everybody, we just didn't have that like we do now. Like I'd look at people that didn't drink, which are few and far between, and I was that person. "Oh, come on, have one. Oh, you're boring. Oh,
You're so boring.
You never trust someone who doesn't drink." But I guess deep down inside, I was thinking, like, I wish I could do that. Never be able to moderate. I'd always sort of look at people's, how could they just have one or two drinks? Like it just. Because I wanted to get pissed. Like that was my main goal, was I was using alcohol to soothe, numb, escape. Well, that was it.
Yeah, it sounds like alcohol was your solution and you were self-medicating.
Self-medicating.
So tell me, Ali, what was actually going on with your mental health throughout this period?
Oh, look, it was, I guess, as I said, I was running away from myself and I just didn't know how. Like I'd had therapy from when I was 16. I did have a really severe asthma attack, and because I didn't want to wake my mum up, I literally nearly died from not being able to breathe until it was time, on the clock. Oh, I better go wake up mum. And they actually, in the hospital, I did see a counsellor because I was depressed and I was anxiety ridden. That was sort of pre getting, drinking a lot. So there was always that little, it's just that lack of worthiness, and I just didn't feel like anybody gave a shit. So just trying to soothe and stuff. So that was my main thing, is low self-worth, low self-esteem. Everybody's going to leave. Like I couldn't even catch a bus I wouldn't catch a bus because I was so terrified that I wouldn't get off at the right stop.
Wow.
I was just a scared little teenager. I mean, even my sister took me to my first. So when I left school, I basically went on unemployment benefits and hid from the world. And then my sister said, "Look, come on, there's a job going where I work." I mean, she had to literally hold my hand, like get me on the bus. And I mean, I was so terrified. And she basically got the job for me. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And that was the start of me working, then building that muscle of, you can do it. That.
And how did the depression play into your life throughout the years? I know from my own experience, particularly in bouts of heavy drinking, my anxiety would escalate uncontrollably. But if you could explain a little bit more about how that sort of fluctuated throughout the years for you.
Look, I mean, at the time I couldn't put anxiety wasn't a thing, I just remember you get that butterflies in your stomach, the sweaty palms, the dry throat, like deer in the headlights. That's literally how I was living my life, deer in the headlights, deer in the headlights. So I guess, using, alcohol got me out of that deer in the headlights. And then I guess moving in, having lots of failed relationships, like I was with a guy, and jealousy. Like I'd never, because, your first love, that you experience lots of stuff. And, of course, jealousy, which, again, I only knew about it because when I fell in love, then I was terrified they were going to leave because my low self-esteem. Oh my God, he's looking at that girl. Oh my God, he's only watching that show because that actress is on there. Like everybody was better looking than me. Everybody was better than me. And then I was smoking marijuana. I don't know why I continued to smoke marijuana with him, because that was just paranoia overload. And again, anxiety, but I never joined the dots. Like again, I'd go to the toilet and I'd be just like anxious, and then I'd have a bloody cone. And I'd be like, what are you doing? And I'd be paranoid, oh my God. And again, I don't know why I continued to even smoke cigarettes. I was a chronic asthmatic. I felt sick. But I just kept just seemed to do the wrong thing choose those things instead of choosing not to smoke marijuana, to get help with the anxiety. I just didn't have that awareness. So, going through life in an anxious state. And then in my marriage, I only joined the dots later, that I would come home from work and I would literally run inside and go to the toilet. And I just couldn't work it out. But it's anxiety, because I didn't know what type of mood the ex was going to be in, just living in that. So I've had therapy on and off throughout the years, and it was always based around, that fear of abandonment, not being enough, and just getting to know your inner child, because I was running. That's what I was wanting, was just that comfort, but I wasn't giving it to myself. I was looking for externals. I was meeting guys. I was having these relationships, like, chewing them up and spitting them out, just trying not love me, but really you've got to love yourself, right? So I did go on Lexapro. So when I had our daughter, I again, the lying, I lied to the lady, the 6-week nurse. You do a postnatal depression test. Oh yeah, I totally bullshitted, and she's like, "Nah, love, I think you're depressed. You've got postnatal," and I'm like, "No, I'm not."
Oh wow!
I mean, she wasn't her first body.
She could see straight through.
She could see that I was just this nervous wreck, and drinking after her. So I did, and then I thought, oh no, it's not. I'm not depressed. It's my hormones. There's all these excuses. No, it's just because of my hormones. So yeah, it was that was pretty awful, having, just not recognising postnatal depression. And I also think my husband had it as well, which they don't talk about men getting it.
No, they don't.
He was totally, utterly, he didn't know what to do either. So yeah, we sort of were living on a remote property, which didn't help. The isolation, that's the killer. I mean, that's when my alcohol and marijuana use ramped up, because we were living in nowhere. So it was kind of a little bit like you felt like you're on holidays a little bit, but I just could do whatever I want. So play school, 3:00, crack a beer, have a cone.
Yeah, check out. Wait till the husband got home, and then he'd be, oh no, yeah, it was just awful. Lots of therapy there. But I would tell my mum, like the other thing, my mum would suggest, because it was all about the marriage. It was all about the marriage. And I never once said to my mum, I'm drinking like a fish, which is sort of actually new, but I never told her that I was smoking marijuana, because that's the lie. Again, we go back to what's socially acceptable.
Yeah. So, we did a few self-help books and whatnot. But, yeah, it took me a long time to work out that, I was depressed and anxious. But again, that's exactly what my husband is, suffers depression and anxiety. And I'm like, hello, mirror.
I can really imagine how terrifying it would have been when you were going through that postnatal depression, because of the stigma that is associated with mental health, struggling with your mental health, and then to be medicated and the stigma that comes with medication, I really feel for you in that moment. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said, I just didn't know any better. I didn't have the awareness at the time. And that's such a big thing, isn't it? Once we get the awareness around our behaviors and we realize that there is another way, there is another option, then things start to really open up. And when we spend our lives searching for externals to fill the internal void, we spend our entire life chasing. And it's, maybe you'll get instant relief for a brief moment, but then you always end up back where you were or deeper down the hole. So, oh gosh, there was so much there that you shared. Now, I'd love to know, when did you get the awareness? What was the catalyst that then took you to that moment in June 2021?
Look, I don't know. It just was just that loop of so the marriage ended in 2019, and that was like a license for me to get back into Party Alley. So again, I just thought, hello, alcohol, my friend. It's going to be, it just ticked all the boxes for a marriage breakdown. It was perfect. It gave me the excuse and the reason to come home and get shit-faced because, poor me, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, I did that for 2 years and, I was going out, meeting guys, basically acting like a 20-something-year-old, again, looking for externals, dressing it up as, I'm divorced, I'm partying, I do shit, we all had fun when we were drinking, it wasn't all doom and gloom. So, but it's just let's be honest, that's why we drank really, is to that escapism, and you go out and you meet guys or you meet people and it's just this social thing. Like I was free from this toxic, depressed person, and so I was just going to give it my best crack. And a couple of parties that I did go to, I did, I was a little bit of a trash bag. And wake up in the morning going, oh shit. And normally I didn't have that consequence, you see, but there was just starting to be a few more freaking consequences of bad behaviour. So then I just thought, okay, well, I'll try and I won't drink this week. So I started to get a little bit sober curious around about the start of, mid 2021, because we all had COVID, so that was perfect. That was a license to get smashed anytime, anywhere, or at your home, which I was enjoying more. I was actually drinking a lot more at home and then playing the drums. So, yeah, I was just getting sick of that loneliness and dressing it up as, I'm playing the drums and I'm fine. Oh, that's great. So then I sort of got sick of that and then rang a girlfriend and told her, I said, I just keep getting to this loop. So I did reach out to my girlfriend from high school, who's an amazing counsellor and now a quantum hypnotherapist, so deep hypnotherapy. So I had a chat to her and went down, saw her, and we did pretty much a whole day of therapy. And then we asked questions for your subconscious, and I haven't had a drink since.
Wow. That's incredible.
Because I was ready, right? I mean, I'd been to hypnotherapy for smoking. We'd worked for a couple of months. And then, summer comes and for stuff it, I'll have a smoke because everyone else is. But honestly, Ash, it's like just look, you still got to do the work, but that was my catalyst of wow.
That's what, yeah. So what does the work look like then for you, Ali?
So, yeah, basically, I've discovered, so I'm reached out, so sort of for the first 6 months, I didn't tell anyone. I really went went into hermit mode. Thankfully, it was June, so it's winter time, so not much is happening. And then, rocking in the corner a few nights. I also told my daughter, prior to the hypnotherapy, I said, I'm going to give up drinking for a year. And she was like, bullshit, you couldn't give up for a week. So thanks for the support. But no, so then that 6 months was pretty isolating, but doing the work. So then, basically not putting myself in those, situations of going out.
Old environments,
didn't play the drums. I was always active in hiking, so I reached out to a friend at work she doesn't really drink. So I went hiking, climbed bloody Bluff Knoll. So I just really went into nature. And then I found Danny Carr.
Beautiful Danny.
Yeah. And even though I had, by the time I started her course, I'd had 7 months under my belt. But that was really that was so important because you're looking at the whys on why we drink. So you can stop it. And I did rock in the corner and I did avoid everything. But then I reached out to Danny and signed up for her 3 month challenge. And man, that was just life-changing, game-changing because, a weekly Zoom, so you're accountable, but also to meet people that are going through the same.
That's right.
Because we don't know. We're swimming upstream. I mean, I've just moved to the northwest where, like, I'm literally a freak because I don't drink. So it's nice to have that, what they say is connection helps with addiction. And, I did her course and that was, the whys on why we drank and really digging deep. So that was awesome. So then we learned how to do meditation and breath work.
Fantastic.
All my years of, because I'm a bit of a hippie and I do like that sort of yoga and stuff like that. But, whenever someone said meditation, I was just like, I'd left the building. I'm like, nah, I've got such a monkey brain. I couldn't sit still, let alone meditate. And I was just, so she was like, no, just follow your breath. So I've learned how to meditate and then.
Well done, Ali. That's music to my ears. Yes.
And I never thought I was angry, right? Like I was angry all the time because I was just so hungover and tired and resentful and annoyed, and yet I portrayed this, this Zen like hippie, but it's just like, no, I was like a bitch, and I was turning into more of a bitch towards the end. So anyway, now I've learned, like, I'm holding this stone and it's just that calming breathing, and it's just awesome to reset that, learning, the vagal whatever.
Vagus nerve.
Yeah. Sparks, and I'm just so much calmer that it's a flow-on effect, like even my animals, my daughter. It's incredible. So
that's exactly right. We don't get sober to live small lives. And sure, in the beginning, you said you went into hermit mode, and that if that's a way to protect yourself, self-preservation, then by all means, maybe 3 to 6 months, that might be the strategy. But then it's all about developing the tools that allow you to step back out into the big bad world and handle life on life's terms. I was just sharing with a client earlier this morning, like, life is going to knock you around. That is the human condition. That's what we've signed up for when we enter onto this earth. But it's how we respond. And when we have a really stable foundation that's built on practices such as meditation, gratitude, there's all of these incredible things that we get to learn in sobriety. When that foundation is strong because we show up consistently for these daily practices, then when life's knocks come at you, you don't fall off the beam.
Well, you're just not in that reactive fight or flight. Like that victim mentality, like it's everyone else's fault. Like poor me, you know, fuck you, like people would cut you off in the traffic or I just always, I was just, you're just in that fight or flight mode. And it's just now like, it's just like, oh, yeah, mate, if you want to overtake me, go for it. Lock yourself out.
Oh,
But
so
then,
true, isn't it?
you know, like I got home from being away and my daughter, I literally if I was drinking, I drove 2 days down from Karratha to Perth. My daughter had been air quotes house sitting. And my God, Ash, I got home to an absolute, like a tenant from hell scenario.
Oh, no.
It was disgusting. Like,
Oh.
my worst fears and my worst night, but I wasn't trying to project driving down. I'm like, no. She had plenty of time. Yes, Mum. My God. Like I walked in, it was just an abomination, right? Now, my first thought would have been I would have gone straight to the bottle shop, got a litre of vodka, like probably had 4 shots because I'm like, oh, my God, my house is a mess. And then I would have lost my shit and said all this stuff and, like, you know, just used alcohol to have coped with that situation of, you know, there's that trigger of like, anyway, I got home. I had to have some pretty big, deep breaths, but I never lost my shit at her. She ended up coming and giving me a hug because there was something going on with her life. Like she was struggling, right? So for me to have been in that, you know, fight or flight, fucking how dare you disrespect my house, and, you know, like really gone to town on this teenager that was totally and utterly struggling, then, so I was really like, I really was proud of myself because I've come so far, and that's what sobriety gives you, you know, like, life does throw you curveballs and horrible houses and whatever, you know, but it's the way you respond that is the biggest gift that, you know, taking alcohol out of your life has given you, because you are more present, you are more stable, you're more grounded. And you know, to live, to wake up every day and feel like that it's like I just would never, ever, ever, ever pick up a drink again.
Wow, Ali, what a beautiful story. And I think that's a perfect place to wrap up this interview. However, there's one final question that I have for you that I love to ask all of our guests here on Behind the Smile. So I'm going to ask you this one now. The question, Ali, for you is, what are your 3 non-negotiables that allow you to live a life today that is happy, joyous, and free?
Non-negotiables. To get up and do the gratitude. That's what I learned. Danny Carve got her little playbook. So I am and grateful. So that's a non-negotiable, to get up and put a smile on my face. Yeah, just 3 non-negotiables. Just not to drink and just be grateful that I've left that and forgiven, you know, self-forgiveness and self-compassion. To be like, you know, I'm proud of you, to give yourself credit, because, I mean, I'm single and, you know, if you don't back yourself, then who will? So I'm learning to believe in myself. So every day, just speak kindly to yourself. And
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. To have, you know, to hear that you've come from a place of having such little self-esteem to the woman sitting in front of me today who has this self-love practice, who writes a gratitude list and chooses not to drink. Like, that is just, they couldn't be further apart. And
100%.
just congratulations, Ali. That's so amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
We say here on Behind the Smile that when we recover loudly, no one need suffer in silence. So thank you so much for joining me here today and sharing your story, Ali.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ash. I really appreciate this podcast, and I'm very excited to hear it again. And thanks for giving me the time to share my story.
Such a pleasure. Such a pleasure. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
A big thank you for tuning in today. If you'd like to support the show, you can do so by clicking the subscribe button and leaving a review. Every review helps this podcast become more discoverable, meaning more people can hear these stories of strength and hope. Together, we will continue to remove the stigma around mental health, trauma, and addiction. Remember to reach out to those you care about, and I'll see you next time.